Hey guys, today I would like to do a comparison video between the XPS 13 Plus, the Thinkpad X1 Nano Gen 2, and the Thinkpad Z13. First, the chassis. The X1 Nano Gen 2 is slightly larger than the other two, despite it have the smallest 30-inch size screen. The XPS and the Z13 are almost identical in size. The only small difference between them is the XPS have a wedge-shaped design which makes its front end slightly thinner than the Z13 and the rear end slightly thicker than the Z13. If we turn the laptop around, we can see that Z13 is made by recycled aluminum. The coating or the material I don't like because the bottom plate of it sounds like plastic and feels like plastic when I touch it. It doesn't feel very premium compared to the other two. The XPS 13 Plus on the other hand feels like a solid block of aluminum, but its edge is very sharp, so it doesn't feel very comfortable when you're trying to open it up by your hand. The build quality of it is actually slightly better than the last gen. I like the X1 Nano Gen 2's chassis the best. It's lighter than the other two, while slightly heavier than the first gen, and the coating on it is very comfortable to touch. When we open up the lid, we can see that it's using a 13-inch 2.2K screen. Well, the aero kit on it fall apart when it arrived, so I think there are some QC issues of Lenovo's factory. There is another issues on the X1 Nano that it will occasionally start to flickering the screen, really annoying. I tried to reinstall the Windows or reinstall the driver. All of those can fix the issues. The hinge on it can open 180 degrees, which I very like, and it's smooth throughout the whole process. The hinge on the XPS 13 Plus I don't like. It's too weak on the front, and when it opens up to about 120 degrees, it's starting to make some squeeze noise when it first arrives in my hand. I end up opening up the lid and adjust the screw to make it stop making that noise. So there might be some QC problem on the Dell's end as well. The hinge of the Thinkpad Z13 is very good. It can be easily opened up by one hand, and it stops at about 90 degrees. When you try to push it further, it will give you a stronger resistance. I think this design is to accommodate its stylus, because I see in the Windows setting it shows that it have pen support, but because it doesn't include with a pen, I haven't tested that out yet. Now let's compare the speaker on those three laptops. First, the speaker on the X1 Nano Gen 2. Then the speaker on the XPS 13 Plus. The last one is the z13 speaker. I don't know if that can be passed through the mic, but from my personal experience, the XPS 13 Plus is the best out of these three. Then the Z13, and the last is the X1 Nano Gen 2. The voice on the X1 Nano Gen 2 is slightly lower, and the volume on the Z13 is between those two. And the XPS 13 Plus have the largest volume out of those three. The sound of it is actually richer than the other two. There is some small issues on the XPS 13 Plus speaker. If you turn the volume too large, there is some distortion on the mid and bass. The Z13 doesn't have that issues, but the volume of it is slightly lower than the XPS 13 Plus. The X1 Nano though, the speaker on it is not as clear as the other two, but it's also usable when you're doing a normal web surfing task. Next, I would like to talk about an issue on Windows Plus OLED plus maybe Edge issues. The screen is actually starting to flickering now, but it's hard to show on the camera. And I would like you guys to pay a close attention on the skin tone of the Max in this video. The screen on the X1 Nano Gen 2 is a normal sRGB screen, so the colors of his skin looks normal to me. But on the OLED screen, the color of his screen actually look orange-like. And similar issues appear on the Z13 as well. I'm not sure if that's something only happen in the Edge, and I'm guessing that's causing by the color management on Windows or on the Edge. If we use other device as a comparison, the color tone will look dramatically different on that OLED Windows display and the iPad. I also have another reference device that is the Samsung tablet SA Ultra. On this device, while it's also using the OLED screen, I didn't find the same issues like on the Windows device. So I'm guessing there's some color management issues on Windows Plus OLED. They might need to be noticed if someone want to do color accuracy job. And beside that, I would like to talk about the web browsing experience. I got about 180 on the speedometer benchmark on the AMD laptop, but I got about 223 and a little bit over 200 on the 12th gen Windows laptop. As a comparison, my 11th gen Huawei laptop scoring around 120, so I can actually feel the difference between the different laptops when scrolling through the internet. The Intel ones will actually feel snappier compared to the AMD ones. And because of the AMD laptop is using the 2.8K OLED screen, so the battery life isn't as good as I will imagine. It only lasts me for about 5 to 6 hours in my use, and the X1 Nano lasts about 6 to 7 hours in comparison. There is another issue about the Thinkpad Z13 that's related to the driver on the trackpad. When I try to scroll it through the web page, it will sometimes accidentally register my scrolling as tap and select. That's very annoying when I try to do my daily task, and I find despite its trackpad looks very similar to the one on the Z16, these issues actually happen less on the Z16's trackpad compared to the Z13's trackpad. And later on, I find out that they are not using exactly same trackpad because the width of the trackpad on Z13 is actually slightly narrower than the trackpad on the Z16. I tried to turn down the sensitivity of the tap on that trackpad, but it doesn't help a lot. On the XPS 13 Plus, it actually has similar driver issues as the Z13. It feels much nicer when you're scrolling through it around, and the tap sound and the feeling is better than the Z13. The Z13 feels very shallow and not nice to use, but the XPS 13 Plus will actually misregister my palm as touch input, and I have encountered one or two times that the touchpad will actually sounds different on the medium row to the left and right row. Restarting the device cannot fix that. I have to turn off the device, let it rest for a few minutes, and turn that back on. Besides that, sometimes it will misregister when you just open Windows. It might come back normal after you doing some work on Windows, but the checking experience isn't consistent. The trackpad on the X1 Nano Gen 2 though is very good. The scrolling of it is very smooth. The algorithm of it make you a very good web browsing experience, and I have no problem of it. The only complaint of me to that trackpad is it's just too small compared to, for example, the trackpad on the XPS 13. The keyboard wise, the X1 Nano Gen 2 have a very good keyboard. There is nice feeling and sounding in the 13-inch range. And the XPS 13 Plus also have a very good keyboard. The only issues I have with the XPS 13 Plus keyboard is that the key size is just too large, and I often misclick the key near to it because I couldn't find the edge of that key and I couldn't locate the key I want. The keyboard on the Z13 though isn't very good. It feels shallower and sounds worse compared to the other two keyboards. But to be fair, it still feels better than some of the ideal pair notebook keyboard. It just doesn't compare to some of the best options out there, like the XPS 13 Plus or the Thinkpad X1 Nano. The OLED screen on the XPS 13 Plus and on the Z13 are really good to look at. The text on it is actually much sharper than some 1080p option on the market. And I can feel the difference between the 2.8K and 3.5K if you use it like me in a very close distance. But the 2.2K screen on the X1 Nano is also good enough that give you more detail and finer font on the screen if you are doing some coding like me. So to sum up, if I have to choose one of those laptops, I would like to choose the XPS 13 Plus because the issues on it is the one I can take. And because of the quality issue and the driver issues on the X1 Nano and the Z13, there is one last issue on the XPS 13 though, is it will make noise when you trying to turn the laptop on. I hope that can be catched in the mic. Hopefully that can be fixed by driver or in the next year's model. Which one we will pick if you got the options between those three? And if you got any other questions about the Z13 and the Z16, please leave a comment. Thank you.